Hi guys, and welcome to episode 12 of Surrey Tennis Talks. This is our penultimate episode before the end of the year. So as always, I'm joined by my co-host Justin. Justin, how are you doing?
Hey guys, yeah, really good. Thank you very much, Lewis. How are we doing? Okay.
Yeah, all good. Looking forward to the end of the year, regrouping and going again in 2021. So hopefully everyone watching this would have seen our interview last week with England cricket star Ollie Pope. Really nice guy, really interesting. But I suppose to start off the episode, I just wanted to throw a question at you, really, which was there anything from that interview with Ollie that you would take away as maybe something quite important that he said? Is there something that was sort of the key message from that chat you had with him?
Well, I thought it was fascinating. And if you haven't seen it, then I would really encourage as many people as possible, especially our great juniors, to watch that interview with Ollie Pope. He's a young man, 22 years old, and it probably struck you the same way, Lewis, just how grown up and mature his thinking was, and his approach to the game, because he's managed to turn something which is a huge passion of his. I mean, you could tell the way he was talking about. He was involved in Surrey cricket, a bit like our players are, from the age of 8 years old, which is when we sort of try and look for players. And yet he's still 14 years later, still completely passionate and in love with the game, but also very much able to look at it clinically. You know, like a doctor might be able to. Not avoid the blood and the guts and go, right, what do we need to do here? And you could definitely sort of see his eyes focus and he got very narrowed with his thinking when we talked about performance aspects of sport and tennis. And I just love the way that he was able to portray and communicate this idea of making sure that you are fully prepared, that you have done everything, you have ticked every single box. We don't leave anything to chance. And that's both opponent side, because if you recall, we were really looking, although we've got cricket as a team game, we're really looking at this matchup. As an opening batsman, you know who's going to be opening their bowling. You know the 2 or 3 bowlers who are going to try and give you hell for the next 10 hours at the crease. Or one ball. Who knows? So the idea of that you could be out with a golden duck, or you could be in for the innings of your life and save a test match and win the Ashes. I mean, wow. I mean, talk about different ends of the sort of mental spectrum. And if you get out, then you learn from it and you move on. And we've spoken a lot recently about winning. Fine, if you're playing well and you're in good nick and you're filling the ball well off the bat, all very well, and you're reading the bowler, great. But if you get out, then you have to analyze it, evaluate what went well and what you need to improve on, and move on and think about your next inning. So I think, yeah, for a guy that was 22 years old, just the maturity and the professionalism in his approach, incredible. I mean, what were your takes?
I would echo everything you said there. And I think what stood out to me most was the fact that, cricket, there's so many periods of, not having to be totally 100% switched on. I mean, they're out there for potentially hours on end. And what he was talking about when he referenced sort of playing in South Africa, when he would look at sort of Tabletop Mountain, and he would sort of zone out slightly and then, sort of back in the room, and he's ready to face, one of the world's best bowlers, and that's, I found incredible, because that's something I personally would struggle with massively, is to be able to switch off, switch on, switch off, switch on. And I guess on a mini scale in tennis, it's similar. You've got mini breaks, obviously nowhere near, but you're playing a point and then it's ending, then you're going again. So I found that quite interesting. Probably quite a lot a tennis player could relate to that.
No, you're 100% right. The routines and the cue. Do you remember the cue that he gave himself? He says when the bowler gets to the end of his walk back and then turns, that's when his own internal cues and patterns that have been practiced thousands of times kick in. So it's, you're all very well to just switch off mildly. I sort of have this code that I use with my players, is that you want to come in and play your points at 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Try and be a 9 out of 10. I think it's much better as a coach to ask players to be at 9 out of 10, because it's somehow more realistic to achieve 9 out of 10 than it is 10 out of 10. And often, and then they say, well, out of interest, do you not want 10 out of 10? Say, yeah, but just to let you know, I think that when you really come in at 9 out of 10, all of a sudden, without you even realizing, you sort of blend into 10,
Mm.
you blend into that level. But let's start with something that your subconscious mind is going to find a bit more sort of realistic. Let's aim for a 9. But then it's the ability to switch off to gazing at Table Mountain would be nice for all our tennis players. But most of the time, we're going to be looking at the top of a London bus going past, or trying to listen to that dog barking in the local neighbour's garden next to the tennis club. But it's just letting that come in for a brief few minutes to give you some respite, and then as the server picks up the balls and comes back to the line again, it's then tuning back in. So you can do it like a grading system. So if you're at 9, when you want to come in to return serve, you're at like a 9. Well, then let yourself go down to, and with my players, we talk about go down to about a 5 or a 6. What does a 5 or a 6 look like? So you're still in the room, as it were. You're still focused, but you're not intensely like you're going to burn out in an hour's time because you're just hyper and you're going to sweat yourself to death and you're going to be so intense. It's not possible. But you don't want to start drifting off into thinking, oh, I've got homework later on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Miss Brown says if I don't get my homework in tomorrow, I'm going to be in that's no good, because then you start and then you're off. Well, I wonder what we're having for tea later on. Is it beans and sausages, or is it, what did Mum say, that are we going to have shepherd's pie tonight? No, that's so you want to stay in the moment, let yourself wander, stay in the room. I think that's a good way of sort of thinking about it. Don't let your mind go out of the court, really. Have a little mosey, and then be mindful of when it is to then. And then when you've got to lift it, you're only lifting from 6 to 9.
Yeah.
If you've disappeared completely and you've fallen off the face, gone out of the room, then you might have drifted down to a 2 without even knowing, and you've got to go from a 2 to a 7. You've got to go from a 2 to a 9, jump up 7 levels to be ready to go. So really good takeaway from Ollie Pope there, and we can see how good these routines are as to how well a player is able to perform consistently.
Yeah, no, 100%. And just a quick follow-up question to what you were saying there, and actually maybe even a more accurate example would be perhaps the change of ends, which I find, certainly watching the professional game, it's interesting how it differs. Some players, it's towel over the head, they completely don't want any distraction, and others, I guess, maybe some of the best out there, your Rogers, your Novaks, will often just look around, they'll be taking in the crowd, taking the music, whereas, like I said, and actually that's a period of time where you could get a little bit panicked if you're in a negative situation, if you're facing, or if you face set points or whatever. So what are your thoughts on that change of end period? Because that's something not many people talk about.
Well, like you've said, I mean, the key is being prepared. So we've had anything from, and I've personally taught players to, if they get lost, they can get lost just with the amount of intensity and the pressure that's coming into their body. So write some notes down. Lots of players, I've advised lots of players, well, why don't you write down these bullet points that are really important to you about how to be? Am I doing this? And what's really nice is to ask yourself the questions that you want the answers to before you play. So because when you're nice and relaxed in the pre-match talk, everything's chilled and there's no pressure, and you think, oh, I'll be fine. But no, write it down just in case. And then later on, when you're stressing about having to hold serve at 5-4 in the second, having lost the first set, and you're just feeling, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, just grab out your piece of paper and it will just say, am I, when I play well, I do these. I'm relaxed. I'm breathing. Oh my gosh, I'm glad they said that, because suddenly my shallow breathing has come back in and I'm really tight. I am shaking. I'm putting the racket into my left hand. I'm shaking out my right arm to keep it relaxed. I am dancing on the spot. And you think, well, gee, I've stopped doing that the last 3 games. And it's just those simple cues that stop you from panicking. So you're back up every time. It's just a note and a piece of paper in your bag that you can do. I mean, Jim Courier, years ago, former world #1 French Open champion, read a book at changeovers because maybe we just needed to get away from it. I think at the time I remember what the book was, but it's gone now. But yeah, maybe you want to read a book, or, I mean, you're not allowed to listen to music, being in case you're sort of communicating with your coaches or there's a coaching on the book. But there's nothing wrong with just writing some simple notes in the language that you understand and make you feel good, or maybe an inspirational quote. You don't have to think like a champion to be a champion. Oh, that's good, because I'm putting too much pressure on myself. I'm trying to be too perfect out here. Just keep thinking the right thing, or keep doing the right things. One simple line or a bunch of bullet points. And just the act of reading it will distract your mind from anything that's stressing you out. But there's a few tactics there. There's a few little things you can do. But the towel over the head is great. Shut out, especially when there's a centre court crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment with no spectators, I don't think there's too many things putting you off. Maybe that dog barking at number 23 needs to, we can sort that out after the match. But again, as far as junior tennis, this is where you want to experiment with things. Experiment with the towel. Experiment with the book. Famous 5. Experiment with 3 or 4 things. Experiment with the last 2 things your coach said to you that you thought, I like that. Write it down.
Yeah. No, yeah, great advice, and hopefully some players will be able to take some tips for that. So, as Justin referenced, everyone out there, the Ollie Pope interview is well worth a watch. A really great episode, and it's available on our Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. So, Justin, speaking of breaks in play, we're obviously at a time of the year which is the downtime for a lot of professional players and to be honest, players of all levels as they sort of look forward to the new year. So, I just wanted to get your thoughts really about this period of reflection, rest, preparation for these players. What does that period of time look like? What does that involve, and how can players best prepare themselves for a whole new year of competing?
Well, certainly at professional level, and I'm talking to you today from National Tennis Centre, so we're involved in pre-season training, which is a chance for the players who've had some time off, and then now, if you like, the battery has been wound down, and then now it's a chance to recharge the battery and get it ready for tournament play. But that takes several weeks. So in terms of letting your body rest, that's the most important thing. And certainly as junior tennis players, throughout the year there should be, at least 6 cycles where you just take time and you're looking at building your game, because your game needs to be developed a lot more than top players' games need to be developed. Their games need to be improved upon, but not so much developed from the ground up. Whereas a lot of our juniors, of course, are still trying to develop basics, backhands and serves and volleys. But let me give you a little insight. I mean, pre-season training here is you've got to prepare the body. First of all, you have to be fit enough to train. Throughout the rest of the year, you're just keeping your body ticking over, maybe managing a few injuries. So it's a really good time to switch the body off. But then, as I say, pre-season, build it up again, get your strength and conditioning sessions in. That's really, really vital. And make a few gains as well. Your body's fresh. It's just had a rest. So if you want to get stronger, really good time of the year to put some really good strength sessions in. But sort of on the court, good idea to have a stock check, have an audit. In simple terms, do a little mind map. It's just, you do a little tree and you put your forehand, put your backhand, put your serve, put your volleys, put your smashes, put your movement, and then write a few things off in little branches. Oh, what kind of volley? Oh, forehand volley, low forehand volley, high backhand, high forehand volley, medium one, slow one, fast one. And you think, oh my gosh, so many shots. And you just go sort of around your tree, if you like, with all the branches. And you just think, give yourself a little mark as to where you are and where you want to be, and think, well, hang on, I've done the whole tree. Looks to me like my backhand volley, I don't feel terribly confident about that. So now is a really good chance to hit the practice courts once your body's feeling good and fresh and recharged, and say, get on with your coach and say, yeah, good time of the year to work on my backhand volley. There aren't too many important competitions at the moment. Let's do that. And a bit more speed on my forehand, a bit more kick on my second serve. So again, really good chance to do what my hamster does a few times a year, which is go in and just rip everything up. And you go, gee, why has he moved his house around? Hamsters do that. If you notice, they just rough everything up and they sort of start again, like to refresh. And although players don't need to, unless you're in a really bad place, don't need to start all over again and chuck everything out. This constant sort of observation of your own game, this internal observation and analysis. If you're lucky enough to have any footage of your own game, good time of the year to go over your game and to review it. And I would suggest the younger you are, it's almost a constant review from week to week. without over analyzing and creating some sort of paralysis in your game. But I don't think there's too much evaluating of your own game that you can do at the moment. It's really good to think, and again, it stops you from being obsessed with, oh my gosh, if I win my tennis match, I'm a good person. If I lose my tennis match, I'm a really bad person. And then there hopefully should be a little voice going, well, hang about, you've continually been trying to grow the whole time. Does that not have any value to it? And the other little voice goes, yeah, I suppose so. And bit by bit, you want that observation, analysis, evaluation, and growth time to be the king of your year as a junior player. That is what you're constantly trying to cycle in and cycle out, just trying to keep on that loop. And even when you get to sort of professional level, so we're here with Surrey's Joe Salisbury, 28 years old, I tell you, because it just gives you an idea. 28-year-old professional, still growing his game. Still, I want to get better at this. I want to get better at that. I want my footwork to be better at the net. I want my return to be better. I want a quicker second serve. So this is the time to do it. Because once the tour starts, it's a crazy merry-go-round. It's tough to get off. It's tough to get off. You only get moments to top up throughout the year. But for him, you get a chance right now. They're all here. Dan Evans here, Johanna Konta, Carl Edmund, all the top players are here. Andy's here. They're really trying to put in that work, so they've got a good foundation to start the year, and it will keep them going. You know, you can sometimes see them sort of slowing down around about the grass court season, you know, especially when you've had a tough clay court, then the body starts to feel it. And it's all the work you did during pre-season that gets you to that point. Then you might see players taking a little bit of a break sort of after Wimbledon, before the hard court season, but it's tough. The rigors of the tour are tough. So get into the habit as a junior of constantly doing that evaluation process throughout your game and putting priorities every 3 months. Is this still a priority? No, I've grown. Evaluate it, measure it. I was 3 out of 10. I'm now 7 out of 10. Okay, it's not a priority anymore because there's a couple at 5. My forehand low volley is now a 5. So that now takes priority. And I want to get the whole of my game in a position so that when I'm, 16 years old, there are no major holes in my game. And if you've managed to do this process mentally, you'll be creating the Ollie Pope kind of system, and you too will be talking like a major, mature, seasoned professional at 22, because you'd have gone through this mental process. Because all the while you're doing it, you're stretching your mental muscle. You get into the habit of doing it. So the more we can get players away from thinking, "Oh, I'm lost, I'm rubbish," and the more we can get them obsessed with improving, the better.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I agree. And I think just sort of to touch on a point you made there, I guess, because the professionals on the circuit have a small window of the year to sort of really, well, now is to evaluate the game, refresh, get the fitness up. And because, as you said, during the year, it's so hectic. Do you think that the junior players are at an advantage because they don't have to cram that into one window? They could do that, as you say, every 3 months. And would you sort of suggest that, keep that as a regular, especially aside from, I suppose, the mental aspect, just mentally getting ready, the physical aspect as well? Is it important to keep that, evaluation periods throughout the year and not just one at the end?
Well, it totally is. And that's why, as early as possible, it's a good idea to plan as much as possible. And it might be difficult to always know which tournaments you're going to get into, but you have some idea that you're going to get in. You might not know exactly which events you're going to get into, but you could certainly say that's a competition period for me. And a really, really clever use of words is just to call a lot of your matches, call them practice. So I'll just let you know a story, a chat I had yesterday with a player who just finished a little bit of training. And I said, anything planned next few days? And this often happens as well because, poor parents and, often coaches and parents, especially parents, have got to do most of the competition planning. And she says, "Oh yeah, I'm competing for the next 5 days." So, well, you have a 5-day tournament? She goes, "No, I have 5 single match day tournaments, match plays." And because they haven't been able to compete very much, Dad says, "Oh, let's enter all those tournaments." So I said, well, how do you feel about that? Honestly, I didn't put anything on it. I wasn't trying to lead the witness. I just said, how you feel okay? She goes, well, yeah, 5. My preference would not to be playing 5 matches, 5 match days in a row, because it could be like 3 matches a day. It's a lot of matches. So what would your preference be? She says, I'd probably like to carry on practicing for a little bit longer and then play a couple of days of matches. So I said, well, you can do that. And she goes, no, but I can't because I've got 5 days of matches. I said, but you can. You just have to jiggle it around in your head. She goes, I don't really get it. What are you talking about? I've just told you, coach. I've got 5 tournaments coming up. I said, well, why don't we just call 3 of them practice? She went, yeah, but, and she went, oh, okay. So 3 of them I can just focus on practice the things that we've been doing. And maybe 2 of them I can sort of let that go a little bit and try and win them. Why not? I said, yeah, what a great idea. And it's, it's a sensible way, because we never know how many tournaments we're going to get into in a year. You can't say that every single match you play, you have to win. And again, we're trying to win in terms of improve. And if getting better is the goal, you can't say that, oh my gosh, I didn't have a chance to get better. I was so obsessed with just poking the ball back into court and just pushing my serve in that I had to do it because I had these matches. So no, the first 3 we have to agree with your parents as well. You have to make sure the whole team is on board. The first 3 tournaments, just accelerate on the second serve and go for the forehand and be brave. Oh, she said, thank you so much. It's taken the pressure off me. I thought I had to go in and my dad was going to say, well, you played 15 matches, you lost 9 out of 50, and here it goes. No, now you've probably only got 6 matches that you now need to prepare for. First 3 days of preparation. And again, that's what the guys are doing here. There's a second sort of coming, if you like, of the Battle of the Brits, which is happening next week at the NTC. All the singles players are competing. And are you telling me that these guys want to win the Battle of the Brits more than they want to win the Australian Open? No. There's levels to this. There's levels. It's practice. They're trying to get themselves fit, trying to put new things into play that they've been working on. And it's a chance to see where they're at, see where their body is. And then, if you think about the pros, they're going to be peaking. They want to peak for the Grand Slams. Yeah. And then next they'll say, Davis Cup. I'd like to peak for Davis Cup. Or other players might say, Masters Series. I'd like to do well at the Masters Series. So now you do it in layers. Grand Slam, Masters Series. Then a few of the 500s, And then we use the 250s, if you're lucky enough, use the 250s to put my game in a good position. So we can, if we model that down to the juniors, we say, okay, so I want to do quite well at the half-term tournament in February, the grade 3. So I'm going to use all my weekend tournaments before then just to put myself in a good position. Now, the only time it doesn't work is if your dad says, how come you're not winning? How come you're not winning the grade 5 we're playing at the weekend? And you have to say, yeah, but remember coach said that we're just practicing. And the things that you're trying to evaluate me are on my serve, my forehand, my movement, my positive attitude. And the dad goes, oh yeah, sorry. It's taken me a while to get hold of this performance thinking. Right, okay. But you're going to win half term, right? And the player says, no, dad. Remember, I can't control whether I win or lose. But I'm going to aim to be peaking at my best. I'm going to have learned all the lessons from these matches and continuing in my lessons. And then I'm looking to peak at half term. And then we take it down again and we build the program up again. And we try and have a little peak around Easter time. And then we take it down again. And then we try and build up during the summer term and we peak for the summer tournaments. But you can't peak for 8 weeks in the summer.
No.
Peak for the county championships. So this idea of gradually building the level up and giving yourself a chance to grow and learn.
So it's interesting because it's probably a phrase that's maybe overused, but to think like a professional, that's what you're saying here, is that, like you said, the likes of Dan Evans or, Andy Murray or Kyle Edmund, they're not really going to be bothered about, beating people in sort of pre-season matches. They're just focused on themselves, just purely selfish, improving themselves, getting them ready for the right times. So I guess the advice to the juniors could be, throughout whatever you do, think like a professional. What would they do? And that doesn't mean putting loads of pressure on them. It's just, they're the example of how to just handle things in the right way.
Well, I think if we get the whole team on board, both parents, tennis coach and the player, that's normally, typically, you know, as long as you don't have grandparents coming and saying, oh, why ain't he winning the match then? What's going on here? And you have to sort of jump in and go, that's all right. It's all right. We've got other things. But again, if you've planned your year and you've planned your season, then you know what to expect from each practice session. You know what to expect from each practice match. And you know what to expect from a tournament that you're looking to do your best at. Doesn't mean to say that you're guaranteed to do well at a Grand Slam. I'm sure, as we know, there's hundreds of players that have turned up and said, that's my peaking tournament, and gone out first round. It just didn't work, or maybe it's not an exact science. If your body and your mind didn't come together, maybe the draw wasn't kind to you. But it's just a way of sort of making the season a bit more like that, rather than just constant threshold training. I mean, it's like, it'll be, you know, when you go in the gym, Lewis, do you warm up with a few reps, or do you just go straight in and start cranking out 100 kgs on the bench press?
Hey, you got to warm up. Take it slow.
Yeah. Even though there's people around you thinking, oh, they're gonna think I'm so weak, I'm not even lifting any weight.
Oh yeah, I'm certainly guilty of that. I've gone in and tried to show off, let's say. But yeah, you're right.
But it's the pressure, whether it's internal or external. It's just managing your own expectations and being more sensible with regard to your body, your mental health. Because if you're cranking it at 10 all the time mentally, every tournament, you're kidding me. You're going to burn out. You know, and that's not what we're here for, is it?
No, certainly not. Brilliant. Well, look, we've come to the end of the episode. I think that's a really, really useful look back on, I suppose, following on for our Win or Learn episode, really, and helping some players deal with this period of the year. So next week, guys and girls, we've got the final episode of the season, which looks back on 2020. It looks forward to 2021, and it'll just sort of bring this season 1 of Surrey Tennis Talks to a nice close. So unless there's anything else you want to add, Justin, we'll leave it there.
Well, probably the most important thing to add at this time of the year is everybody have a fantastically happy Christmas and happy holidays to all of our amazing Surrey tennis players, all of our committed, dedicated Surrey parents, and our fantastic Surrey coaches who are out there at this time of the year. And if you haven't got indoor courts at this time of the year, it's tough at the moment. So keep going, guys, and have a wonderful holiday season. Yeah.
So we'll see you next week for our final episode, and we'll see you all soon. Cheers, guys. Thanks. Bye.